Each testimony builds a stronger case. Every sharp focus reveals clarity. Learning your legal rights, upholding unyielding justice.
Ma'am, I'm the owner of this store. What seems to be the problem?
The problem is I shouldn't have to pay a dime. People like me keep this whole place running, and yet I'm getting attitude from you. Unbelievable.
Everyone pays for their items.
Everyone. Yeah, right. If I look like you, maybe I get a free pass. Instead, I get lectured by the help.
That's out of line. You need to lower
Out of
your
line?
voice.
You're lucky I'm even shopping in your little store.
She believed the rules didn't apply to her. The store believed in policy. And standing between them was a black manager whose calm decision would trigger a chain reaction no one in that Walmart saw coming. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The woman entered the store already irritated. CCTV later showed her at 1:42 p.m. Sunglasses still on indoors, phone pressed to her ear, voice sharp enough to turn heads. Her name, according to the incident report, was Linda Carver, 46, a self-described property investor who lived less than 10 minutes away. She moved through the aisles like the place belonged to her, snatching items, tossing them into the cart, scoffing when another shopper paused too long in front of the shelves. She complained loudly about the music, about the prices, about the staff. "This place would shut down without people like me," she said into her phone, not bothering to lower her voice. A nearby employee glanced over, then looked away. They'd seen her before. Linda had a history at this location. Verbal warnings, confrontations, long arguments over expired coupons. Nothing that crossed the line far enough to involve police. Until that afternoon. By the time she reached the front of the store, her cart was full. Household items, cosmetics, a blender still sealed in its box. Instead of turning towards the checkout lanes, Linda veered straight for the exit. The receipt checker stepped forward, polite, rehearsed. "Ma'am, do you have—" Linda didn't slow down. "I'm not paying for this," she snapped. "I spend enough money here already." When the employee tried again, Linda's tone turned uglier. She gestured around the store, voice rising. "You should be thanking me. People like me keep this whole place running." That was the moment Marcus Reed looked up from the service desk. Marcus, 38, had been the floor manager at this store for 6 years. Former Army logistics, known among staff for remembering names, schedules, and policies, down to the minute. He was mid-conversation with a cashier when he heard the commotion. Raised voices near the exit, the familiar edge of entitlement tipping into something worse. He didn't rush. He watched first, like he had been trained to do. On camera, you can see Marcus step out from behind the desk and walk toward Linda, hands visible, posture calm. "Ma'am," he said evenly, positioning himself between her and the sliding doors. "Everyone pays for their items." Linda stopped inches from him. She looked him up and down, then laughed, a short, dismissive sound. "You don't get to tell me what I owe," she said, her voice carried. "I know how this works, and I'm not paying a dime." Marcus didn't raise his voice. He gestured back toward the registers. "If there's an issue with pricing, we can resolve it at customer service." That was when the insults escalated. Linda leaned closer, jabbing a finger toward his chest without touching him. She accused him of targeting her, of abusing authority. Then she said it, loud enough for nearby shoppers to hear, that someone like him shouldn't be managing anyone. She framed it as a joke, but the sting landed exactly where she intended. A few customers stopped walking. One pulled out a phone. Another shook their head and whispered to their child. Marcus held his ground. "Ma'am," he said, slower now, "your comments are inappropriate. You still need to pay for the merchandise." Linda scoffed. "Or what?" she challenged. "You'll make up some reason to stop me? I know my rights." Marcus turned slightly, signaling to an associate near the door. Loss prevention had already been alerted. On CCTV, the associate's radio crackled. Linda noticed and smiled, as if daring them to try. "You people always do this," she said, voice sharp, eyes locked on Marcus. "You think you have power in a place like this?" Marcus took a breath. "This isn't about power," he replied. "It's about policy." The doors slid open behind her, sensing motion. Linda took a step forward. Marcus stepped with her, matching pace, blocking the exit without touching her or the cart. The tension in the air was immediate. Electric. What began as shoplifting had turned into a public standoff, one rooted in entitlement, prejudice, and a belief that consequences were for other people. The cameras kept recording, so did the witnesses, and within minutes the situation would move beyond store policy into something far more serious. If you believe that accountability should apply to everyone, no matter who they think they are, share this story and let others know that standing firm can change everything. The moment Linda realized the doors weren't going to open for her, her confidence sharpened into something louder and more reckless. On the CCTV angle from aisle 14, you can see her grip tighten on the cart handle. She rocked it forward once, as if testing Marcus's resolve. "Move," she said flatly. "You don't get paid enough to play hero." Marcus didn't flinch. He shifted his stance slightly, keeping the cart from rolling without ever laying a hand on her. "I'm asking you one last time," he said, voice steady. "Please return to the registers and pay for the merchandise." That was when Linda decided volume was her weapon. "You're profiling me," she shouted, turning toward the small crowd that had gathered. "Look at him. This is what happens when they give people authority they didn't earn." She laughed again, louder now, feeding off the attention. "I bet if I looked like you'd let me walk right out." A woman near the seasonal aisle muttered, "That's not okay." A man pulled his phone higher, making sure the camera caught everything. Linda noticed and leaned into it. "Good," she said, gesturing at the phone. "Record this. Show everyone how they treat paying customers." Marcus raised his hand, not at Linda but toward the associate by the door. "Lock the exit," he said quietly. The sliding doors froze half open, then sealed. A murmur rippled through the store. Linda's smile faltered for the first time. "You can't do that," she snapped. "That's illegal." Marcus nodded once. "Detaining unpaid merchandise is legal," he replied, "especially when the customer admits they didn't pay." She waved her hand dismissively. "I said I'm not paying. That doesn't mean I stole anything." She leaned closer again, lowering her voice just enough to be cruel. "This job is probably the best thing you've ever had. Don't mess it up." Marcus looked at her for a long second. Later he would tell investigators that this was the moment he decided the situation had crossed a line, from theft to disorderly conduct. He reached for his radio. "Asset protection," he said calmly. "Initiate protocol. Contact local PD." Linda heard the word police and exploded. "Oh, of course," she sneered. "Call them, you people always do." Her voice rose again, echoing off the high ceilings. "Let me guess, you're scared? That's why you need backup?" She shoved the cart forward hard this time. The front wheel banged into Marcus's shin. He didn't react outwardly, but the cameras caught the subtle shift in his jaw. He stepped back, hands still visible, creating space while keeping the cart trapped between them. "Do not touch me or my staff again," he warned. Linda laughed, but there was panic under it now. She tried another tactic, turning to the crowd, playing the victim. "Is anyone seeing this?" she cried. "I'm being harassed. I just wanted to leave." A cashier spoke up from behind her. "You didn't pay." Linda spun around. "Stay out of it," she snapped. "You're just a cashier." That comment landed harder than she expected. The cashier's face flushed, and a man beside her said quietly, "Lady, you're embarrassing yourself." Linda turned back to Marcus, eyes blazing. "This store is a joke," she said. "You're a joke, and when corporate hears about this, you'll be lucky to still be sweeping floors." Marcus didn't respond. He was listening, to the radio crackling on his shoulder, to the approaching footsteps of loss prevention, to the distant sound of sirens just beginning to bleed through the parking lot noise. When the first officer walked in, Linda's tone changed instantly. "Oh, thank God," she said, throwing her hands up. "Finally, someone professional." She pointed at Marcus. "He's holding me hostage. I didn't steal anything." The officer glanced at Marcus, then at the cart, then at the crowd of witnesses and raised phones. "Sir," the officer said, "what's going on?" Marcus spoke clearly, precisely like someone who had already rehearsed the facts in his mind. She selected merchandise, bypassed all points of sale, stated she would not pay, and attempted to exit. She also made multiple discriminatory remarks and physically pushed the cart into me. Linda scoffed. "That's his version." The officer nodded. "We'll check the cameras." Linda froze. In the security room, minutes later, the footage played without commentary. Her words, her laughter, her shove. Every angle, every timestamp. The room stayed quiet except for the hum of the monitor. When the video ended, the officer turned to Linda. "Ma'am," he said, "turn around and place your hands behind your back." Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Marcus stood to the side, silent, watching policy turn into consequence in real time. If you believe that accountability matters, even when someone thinks they're untouchable, share this story and remind others that actions always leave a record. Linda's face drained of color the moment the cuffs clicked shut. The confidence she'd weaponized all afternoon collapsed into disbelief, then fury. "This is insane," she snapped as the officer guided her towards the exit. "You're really arresting me for this?" Her voice cracked on the last word, and she looked around, searching the crowd for support that never came. The cameras caught it all, the way her shoulders stiffened when she realized people weren't filming in her favor anymore. The doors slid open this time, but not for the escape she'd imagined. Shoppers parted silently as Linda was escorted through, her cart abandoned behind her like evidence. In the parking lot, the afternoon sun felt harsher. Linda twisted her wrists against the cuffs. "I want a supervisor," she demanded. "Someone above him. He set me up." The officer paused, keeping his tone neutral. "You're being detained for retail theft and disorderly conduct. You can explain your side downtown." Marcus watched from just inside the doorway, framed by glass and reflection. He didn't celebrate. He didn't smirk. He simply stood there, hands clasped, while an employee quietly locked the doors behind the departing patrol car. Later, staff would say that calm was what unsettled them most, not anger, not triumph, just the steadiness of someone who knew he'd done exactly what he was supposed to do. Inside, the store exhaled. Asset Protection began collecting statements. Witnesses replayed what they'd recorded, some already uploading clips online. A woman who'd been standing near the registers shook her head. She really thought she could just walk out, she said, and say all that. Marcus moved through the aftermath methodically, checking on the cashier Linda had insulted, reviewing timestamps with loss prevention, signing the incident log. To anyone watching, it looked procedural, but beneath that surface was the weight he carried every time something like this happened. He knew how quickly narratives could be twisted. He knew how easily the wrong clip could circulate. And just as he suspected, it didn't take long. Within hours, a shaky phone video hit social media. It showed only the moment Linda was blocked at the door, her voice raised, Marcus standing in front of her. The caption read, "Walmart manager, power trips on customer." Comments flooded in, some defending policy, others accusing Marcus of overreach without context. But then the CCTV footage dropped. Clear, wide angle, time-stamped. It showed Linda bypassing the registers, her own words echoing through the store, the shove, the insults, the moment she admitted she wasn't paying. Side-by-side comparisons spread fast and the narrative flipped almost overnight. Local news picked it up the next morning. Not because of the theft, that happened every day, but because of what Linda had said. The reporter called it a textbook case of entitlement colliding with store policy. They interviewed witnesses, blurred faces, quoted Marcus only from the incident report. He declined on-camera interviews. Linda, meanwhile, spent the night in holding. The bravado was gone by morning. In the booking photo, her jaw was tight, eyes red. Her charges were minor on paper. Misdemeanor theft, disorderly conduct, but the consequences stretched further. Her employer placed her on leave after recognizing her from the video. A homeowners association she'd once chaired removed her name from their website without comment. Back at the store, Marcus gathered his team before opening. He didn't mention Linda by name. He talked about procedure, about respect, about keeping your voice steady when someone else tries to take yours away. The cashier Linda had dismissed stood a little straighter. What no one could ignore was how close the situation had come to spiraling the other way. One wrong reaction, one raised voice, one step out of line, and the footage could have told a very different story. Instead, the cameras told the truth. If you believe that truth still matters in a world full of edited clips, share this story and remind others that context changes everything. By the time Linda posted bail, the story had already moved on without her. What she didn't know, what no one had bothered to explain while she sat in a holding cell replaying the arrest in her head, was that Walmart's internal review process was already underway. Every incident like hers triggered a layered response: loss prevention analysis, corporate compliance, and a civil recovery review that ran parallel to the criminal charge. The system didn't care about her opinions, her past complaints, or who she believed kept the lights on. It cared about facts. 2 days later, Linda opened her mailbox to a thick envelope stamped with corporate letterhead. Inside was a civil demand for the merchandise, a penalty fee permitted under state law, and a notice of a permanent trespass ban. She read it twice, then a third time, anger giving way to something colder. She was no longer allowed inside any Walmart property nationwide. The place she'd treated like a personal warehouse had closed its doors to her legally. But that wasn't the worst of it. Her court date arrived quietly. No cameras, no crowd, just a bench, a judge and a monitor, replaying footage she had hoped would disappear into the internet's short memory. The judge didn't interrupt. He let the video run in full. Linda's words filled the room again, clear, unedited, undeniable. When it ended, the judge looked at her over his glasses. "Do you deny saying any of this?" he asked. Linda's attorney whispered urgently. Linda shook her head once. "No." The judge nodded. "Then we're done pretending this was a misunderstanding." She was sentenced to fines, probation, mandatory theft awareness classes, and ordered to complete community service, ironically assigned at a non-profit retail donation center that partnered with the same store chain she'd been banned from. She didn't argue. There was nothing left to argue. Outside the courtroom, her phone buzzed non-stop. A client had terminated their contract. Another requested space. An HOA board she once chaired voted unanimously to remove her entirely. The reputation she'd leaned on, the one she'd thrown around like leverage, crumbled under scrutiny. No one wanted to be associated with the woman from the video. Back at the Walmart, life moved forward. Marcus filed the final report and closed the case. Corporate sent a brief commendation. Nothing flashy, just acknowledgement that protocol had been followed under pressure. To him, that mattered more than praise. The cashier Linda had insulted transferred to a new department. Confidence restored. Shoppers returned. The store's rhythm resumed. Weeks later, Marcus crossed paths with one of the officers who'd made the arrest. "You handled that well," the officer said. "Most people don't." Marcus nodded. "I didn't handle her," he replied. "I handled the situation." That distinction was everything. Linda completed her community service in silence, folding donated clothes, sorting shelves, listening to instructions without interrupting. For the first time in a long while, no one yielded to her tone or her assumptions. No one cared who she thought she was. The rules were the same for everyone there. On her final day, a supervisor handed her a completion form. "Sign here," they said. Linda hesitated, then signed. The pen felt heavier than it should have. She never returned to that Walmart. She couldn't. But the footage did. Played in training sessions, cited in loss prevention briefings, referenced quietly whenever someone claimed the rules didn't apply to them. Not as spectacle, but as reminder. Cameras don't take sides, policies don't bend for pride, and entitlement, when tested against accountability, has a way of collapsing under its own weight. If you believe that karma doesn't rush but always arrives right on time, share this story and remind others that no one is above the rules.
Equity is an ongoing path, and information is your greatest armor. We appreciate your viewership and dedication to undeniable truth.